there's always a good humanity side to it.
Oh
And
yeah.
those are the stories that kind of, I guess, get us through and make us realize, what, there's going to be brighter days ahead. I'm Dave Lubach, the executive editor for the Facility Market, and today we're speaking with Jim Allen, the division manager, IT Workplace Communications for the County of Los Angeles' Internal Service Department. Today we're talking with Jim about the January wildfires that swept through his city and county and the role that he helped play in getting the county through the ordeal. So Jim, thanks for joining us today, and thanks again for your time. When you go through this now and you guys are kind of slowly, moving away from the fire experience and knowing obviously something is probably else is around the corner, these things happen and it's inevitable. Do you get any like kind of lessons learned moments or takeaways from each experience that you do build into the next time around? Anything that happens that you're like, okay, yeah, this may be something that we didn't think of before?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. We learn every one of these events, and unfortunately they happen much more regularly than we would want in LA County. What we recognized this time is that our need for immediate communication for our elected officials was critical. And so this time, they do have cellular LTE connections that they can use. They're either FirstNet or the Verizon compatible FirstNet type system. So they have priority and preemption. They can get connected, but what we needed them to be able to do was be a lot more mobile with it. And you can do that with your cell phone, but not as functionally. So we did deploy Starlink to many of our elected officials at locations that they needed it to provide additional connectivity and mobility for them. So that was something we learned this event. We also did a huge amount of modifications to our IT services. So we had, many websites were developed over a 2-day, 3-day period. And deployed. We established a employee help line because we had so many employees impacted and lost their homes. We established a system for with a telecommunication short code where you text a 5-digit code and you put in your address, and it's called evac check. You can instantly say, just by putting in your address, are you in an evacuation zone and what level evacuation zone? So we realized that even though we worked really hard on a proactive stance to be ready, the change in technology, the opportunities that we have with these new technologies to be better at every instance and every experience with these unfortunate events, we learn every time. So those were some things we learned this time that we're going to apply in our next event, the unfortunate instance that we will have a next event. I will also point out, we did, and we do this every time. So Woolsey Fire was a very large fire that we had in 2018, and we learned in the same way. I had a much deeper role in that response because I was assigned as logistics section chief for the recovery operation, and was there for about a year trying to help our citizens get back on their feet and the county to provide services for them. So we learn every time, and we try and apply those lessons learned into our next the next unfortunate event that we're going to run into. One thing I would like to kind of point out in this crazy, difficult, and it was very crazy, very frenetic for a good week. During these, there's always these very interesting and impactful experiences. And I'll give a brief story about 2 instances where this happened. It was just hugely impactful to me. One was, this was about a week and a half after the fire. We were able to stand down just a little bit as far as the staffing, the LA County staffing, and I happened to be on a men's soccer team. I was playing a tournament in Las Vegas. There was a team we were playing that was from Thousand Oaks, which is about 50 miles away from the fires, and then a couple of their players were from Altadena. One, the captain of our team was talking to him on the field before the game, I noticed he gave him a hug, and they talked for a little bit. So when I got on the field, I ended up talking to him, said, "Hey, what's going on?" The captain of our team had let me know that he had lost his house in Altadena.
Mhm.
And so even though we were playing a soccer game, and we're recreational, we're a little bit older, and me and him were able to have a moment there for a second where I just said, "Hey man, I'm really sorry, and our thoughts and prayers go out to you for." And I told him, I said, "Hey, I work for LA County, and I don't control our responses necessarily, but I do get a lot of information, and I can help direct and guide." I said, "If there's anything I can do, man, let's exchange numbers and let me help if I can help." The guy looked at me, and he was a very nice guy, and he looked at me, and his eyes were pretty bright, and I was kind of shocked, after everything he'd been through. um and he goes, "You know what, Jim, I want to tell you," he goes, "LA County was amazing in this event." And I was floored, because we don't, not everybody says those things. Even though I think very highly of our organization,
Mhm.
it's not always we get that, especially when they're having the worst times of their lives. And he said LA County Fire was around my house constantly when it burned, and unfortunately it did get lost. He said, but they were amazing. He said, Department of Public Works with LA County, he said they were amazing. He said they were blocking off streets. They were protecting our citizens. They were getting them out. He said LA County Sheriff's Department, because this is an unincorporated area of LA County that essentially we become the leadership for in the county, the elected leadership. He said they were amazing. And so in the middle of a soccer match,
Mhm.
we had this moment that was just really impactful to me, because we don't always get those positives, especially when people are having their worst time, and we don't look for them either necessarily. We understand people are having a hard time, and sometimes they may even need to vent to us about what they are experiencing. The other thing I'd say, and I'll kind of finish off real quick on this, is just to speak about who we are as individuals in the county, and why I'm so proud of the team we have. There was a carpenter that worked on my teams years ago. He retired 7 years ago. 7 years ago, lives up in Seattle. He called me about 3 days into the fires, out of the blue. Haven't heard from him since he retired. He said, "Hey Jim, how you doing?" I said, "Oh, we're doing okay. You've been through this before, Scott, and you know what's going on." He goes, "Yep, yep, I know." He goes, "That's why I'm calling." He said, "I'm watching it. I'm it's terribly impactful what's going on in my LA County." And he said, "I can be down there in 48 hours if you need me." And I go, "Wow, Scott." He goes, "It just take all I got to do is jump in the car. It's like an 18-hour drive from Seattle. I'll be down.
Mhm.
I can help. If we need help in LA County, that was that's where I spent my
Mhm.
career. Those were the people I supported. I'll be down there." I was floored. I was just floored. That's and it just speaks to this. These are the people that I get the opportunity to work with.
Mhm. Yeah, it's always good to hear when there's tragedies and things that happen like this, that there's always a good humanity side to it.
Oh
And
yeah,
those are the stories that kind of, I guess, get us through, and make us realize, what, there's going to be brighter days ahead.
absolutely,
So,
absolutely.
well, Jim, I appreciate your time with us. Thanks again for your thoughts. Some really good information here, and best of luck with the continued recovery process for LA and LA County.
Thank you so much, Dave. Really appreciate it. Really appreciate
Yep.
it.